Welcome to Sideline Sanity with me, Michele Tafoya, sponsored by Legacy Precious Metals. There has never been a better time to invest in precious metals. Go to legacypminvestments.com, legacypminvestments.com. I think women are being treated unfairly in sport. And this is not from the perspective of a female sportscaster or however you want to label me. This is from the perspective of someone who sees fairness, justice, equal opportunity for women being eroded. You hear about, for instance, these track athletes, high school track athletes in Connecticut, raced and set records. And then when boys started competing against them as trans women, the girls weren't winning their titles anymore. Do you know the implications of that? Do you know the implications of taking stuff away from girls who have earned it at the expense of gender ideology? These young girls may lose scholarships, certainly lose morale. I mean, we've had Title IX now for 50 years. And it seems to me that now everyone's chopping away at it. Leah Thomas was the big story of the summer, last spring, I guess, competing in NCAA swimming, winning championships at the expense of women. Leah Thomas, had been competing as a male for most of his career. He's a biological male, born a male, decided to become a woman. And I think there are many studies out there that show no matter how much of the testosterone blocking you take, it doesn't make you even athletically to women. This is one of the things going on in society that people are afraid to talk about. People are afraid to have opinions on it. People are kind of timidly saying, I'm going to just wait for more science to come out. The science is you either have a Y chromosome or you don't. You're born a male or you're born a female. And those building blocks in that DNA of the Y chromosome or not the Y chromosome have all kinds of implications for how you develop physically. And that's why we have men's divisions and women's divisions of athletics at every level. My daughter plays girls soccer in high school. My son plays football, which is boys. There's softball for girls. There's baseball for boys. Now, I don't see it going the other way so much. You don't see girls who are born female who decide to become trans men going to try out for the football team. Maybe you do. It's very rare. I haven't seen enough of that yet. I don't understand this chipping away at women's rights in this way. And let's not talk about reproductive rights. I'm not going there. I'm talking about equal opportunity in sport. That's what I'm talking about. Well, there's a new organization called Icons. And I learned about them through a woman who used to row crew at the University of California, Berkeley, which I attended. And I found out more about them. And the woman who founded this organization, Marshi Smith, is a former swimmer, and she is going to join us next to talk about this real attack on women's sports. That's next.
For nearly 3 decades, she's reported the action from the sidelines. She started very young. She's covered the NBA, NFL, Olympics, and the college football and basketball national championships. And now, during these insane times in our world, Michele Tafoya thinks we need a serious dose of sanity. This is Sideline Sanity with your host, one of the sanest people on planet Earth, Michele Tafoya.
As promised, Marshi Smith is our guest from Icons. And Marshi, I'm going to let you take the floor right away and explain to the listeners, if you would, what prompted the development of your organization?
Sure. That's a kind of a complex question I ask myself daily right now. How did I end up here? And I guess to start, I should talk about just my swimming career. I was a NCAA swimmer back in 2002 to 2005. I attended the University of Arizona, and I won a Pac-10 and NCAA title in the 100 backstroke. I was the team captain at the time. Had a really unbelievably amazing experience swimming in college on a full scholarship. And fast forward to this past season, watching the NCAA swimming championships unfold, I really was in utter shock. And as I started reaching out to former teammates of mine at the University of Arizona, came to realize the vast majority of us felt the same kind of crushing feeling. And so we decided to rally together and collectively write a letter to the NCAA in protest of allowing a male to compete in the women's category. And we were met with radio silence. Our own school athletic director basically told us, don't call us, we'll call you. We're still waiting for that call.
Really?
NCAA never responded to our letter. And so moving forward, I just had to try to reach out to as many people as possible to understand how we got here and what I could possibly do aside from sending off a letter and getting no response. I was connected to Kim Jones, who was a Ivy League parent of a swimmer who had to race Leah Thomas all season. And together we decided to take a abrupt stand and create a conference in 54 days that brought together legal experts, Title IX experts, advocates for women's sports, athletes, and scientists who could come together, network, meet each other, swap information, resources, and unite in one collective group to attack this, head on together, because there was no other organization that existed that was taking a stand for female athletes, sadly. And so we decided we just have to do it ourselves.
I was also shocked. I've covered Olympic swimming for a couple of different Olympic games, Rio and Tokyo. And one of the things that I recall was at World Champions leading into the Olympics, they do these mixed relays, which are really fun to watch, really cool. But the strategy is which women are going to do which strokes, which men are going to do which strokes, because you're inevitably going to lose some time when the women are in the pool versus when the men are in the pool, because they're not as fast, and there's a reason that we have divisions, because you either have a Y chromosome or you don't, and that sort of sets up how you're going to be built physically. I'm amazed that you ran into radio silence on this, and I think we all know that politically it was dangerous territory for a lot of people in leadership. But at a time where science is supposedly religion, there's science at work here that people seem to be ignoring. Why do you think that is, Marshi?
That's a complex question. I think that gender ideology right now, it needs a certain level of faith. It's faith-based, because you have to take a leap of faith to believe that a man can be a woman, can be the same thing as a woman. There's a slogan, trans women are women. And you need to kind of reject reality to accept that, I think. And it's a reason why when I do rarely come across kind of these trans radical activists that are pushing this forward and on social media and people's attacks, it's something that can't be backed up with the science, because right now we have, I believe it's 14 studies that explicitly show there is no level of testosterone suppression that can make a man equal to a woman in athletics. And so if you want to offer the science to someone who doesn't want to believe that or believes this ideology, you immediately get shut down with the kind of standard, you're a bigot, transphobe,
yes,
serfs, the name calling. And in those instances, I feel we have won the argument at that point, because when they're unable to look at the scientific facts, then and argue them, you've shut down any kind of dialogue or debate.
When all that comes back at you is name calling, there is no argument that they are willing to defend. And therefore they call you the worst names in the book, like bigot, like transphobe, whatever it happens to be. And it's interesting to me because the other part of the science is women who transition to be men tend to compete still as women. They don't go and compete with the men because you can't boost them biologically either to be a man. So this is very, it seems to me, pointed in the direction of really attacking women's sports, something that it took a long time for people in power to say, you know what? Title IX, everyone, let's do this. Let's make this happen for girls and women in sports. And to fight for that. And Title IX's been in existence now 50 years. And to suddenly say, oh, except there's this one group we're going to make an exception for. I'm flummoxed by it. Even someone like Martina Navratilova, who has incredible ties to the LGBTQ community, has spoken out against this and has been, well, they've tried to silence her, but she did make an appearance at your event, did she not?
Yes, she did. Yes, she's been an advocate.
Yeah, what is her message and what makes her a powerful messenger?
So it's interesting when people call you transphobic on this issue, like you mentioned, Isaac Hennig is a trans athlete who competed also at the women's swimming championships. So aside from Leah Thomas, Isaac Hennig was born female, now identifies as a trans person. And, this athlete is virtually unknown in comparison to Leah Thomas. And Isaac also competed in the Ivy League championships and actually dropped an astonishing amount of time this season and is really a stellar athlete in comparison to the women's field, and broke an Ivy League conference record in the preliminaries of the conference championship. Later that evening, Leah Thomas defeated that record. And so Leah Thomas's name is on the record board for the Ivy League conference instead of Isaac Hennig. So to say that we're transphobic, I also want to advocate for female athletes however you identify. So to me, hearing Isaac Hennig is not getting the credit that this swimmer deserves, that's another kind of step backwards for the trans community as well.
Yes. Yep.
Aside from other females. And in terms of where Martina Navratilova lies, she has been an advocate in the community, and right now there's a rift because trans rights are in conflict with women's rights and lesbian rights in certain instances. Sport being a very obvious one, where installing a male body into a women's competition is in direct opposition to fair competition. So Martina's stance is, on the side of fairness for females, regardless of how you identify in your daily life.
I couldn't agree more with her. Quick break. Marshi Smith, our guest, will come right back and find out more about icons. So much uncertainty. That's the best way to describe today's environment in terms of the economy, in terms of employment, wages, inflation, food prices, gas prices, imports, exports. All of it just feels uncertain, and the stock market is showing it. And so that may make you feel uncertain about your long-term investments. And that's why I would encourage you to think about investing in precious metals. And for that, I recommend my guys at Legacy Precious Metals, legacypminvestments.com. And I'll give you that again in a second. So gold and silver are a great hedge against inflation. They're a hedge against a weakening dollar. And it's a good idea to incorporate these into your 401k, your IRA, however you can do it. I know there are a lot of companies out there talking about gold and silver. I trust Legacy Precious Metals, and I'd like to encourage you to just give them a call. Find out how much you can afford to put into your retirement plan. I don't think you need to be super wealthy to do this, because I'm not super wealthy. And so there you go. You just need to ask questions. And so I'd encourage you to give them a call. Let's think back to 2008. People who invested in gold saw huge gains. And other people, well, they lost their retirements. So we're in a similar situation here. It's not comfortable. So add a little bit of security to your life. Call Legacy Precious Metals. Here's the number to speak to an IRA expert directly and ask any and all of your questions. 866-528-1903. 866-528-1903. Or go download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com, legacypminvestments.com. So this big kerfuffle in women's swimming, and kerfuffle is almost a word that downplays. This is a full-blown controversy. And I think one that hopefully the NCAA is going to learn from, the Olympic Committee will learn from, because this is just, it's a question of fairness, plain and simple. And I think that's what you're advocating for. How do you find your movement growing and being accepted? And how much power do you feel like you are assimilating as a group that can be effective on this stage?
Well, the numbers are with us. Even within the Democrat Party, the average Democrat aligns with protection of, female sex-based categories in sport. So the general population is with us, which, carries a lot of weight. It's the awareness of letting people know that there is a place to come to. There is a group and an organization that is working towards making policy changes in sport-specific organizations, just like FINA, USA Swimming, the NCAA, the IOC being at the top of that. So we need to organize sports-specific groups to tackle individual sports. We are connected to politicians in different states that are working on legislation. So we need to build a strategy, which we are working on, in order to tackle this on the government side. We also have legal teams that are working on litigating these cases, because at the moment the ACLU is the biggest group in opposition that will sue anyone who whispers anything about this topic, and we need to litigate on behalf of females and let parents and athletes know that there is a group they can come to in order to do that. Right now, the Connecticut high school runners case, where 4 athletes are suing the state for losing out on 4 years of high school state titles to 2 track and field individuals, that just went to appellate court. They just had oral arguments on that. So we're waiting to hear back on movement forward on that. But we want to let people know, iconswomen.com. If you come to us, we will connect you to whatever resources, whether it be media, attorneys, if you want to make a change within your sports organization, even quietly and anonymously, there is a place you can come to now where we will help you if you have a passion in fighting this.
Give the website one more time, Marshi.
Iconswomen.com. ICONS.
Yes.
Women with an E.com. We have a YouTube channel. Just started a podcast. However, we're not quite up to your speed. I don't know if we ever will be, Michele. But
yeah, hey, you keep plugging away, and I'll keep supporting you in that effort as well. It's amazing to me that we're in this place. Like I could never have imagined this, and I'm wondering if you're sometimes get up in the morning and you know your purpose, and you're thinking, this ain't what I thought I'd be spending my time doing. I mean, the courage required as well, Marcy. I'm imagining it takes a pretty high threshold, and you've earned some endurance chops in the water, but this is a different level. I'm like you said, you're going to get called names. What is it requiring from you in terms of just inner fortitude and being able to fight this fight?
You know, we quickly organized our conference because we wanted to do it in the same place at the same time that the NCAA athletic directors had their annual convention of over 2,000 staff from all the athletic departments across the country. So they flew into Las Vegas, where we met them in the airport to talk to them one-on-one, tell them we exist, this is what we're doing, this is who we are, help us, even if it's just in private conversation. And the vast majority that we met, I probably spoke to over 200 over the course of 3 or 4 days. And they agree behind the scenes as well. However, I kind of have a luxury in that right now I had a successful career in sales and marketing, and I am a stay-at-home mom of a 4 and 6-year-old now. I don't have the same career pressure of potentially losing my job or being ostracized within, my work and financial situation, which gives me the unique opportunity to be able to do this. And so, in a way, the position I'm in life right now is a blessing. And so, I would just encourage parents and athletes. I understand the difficulty of current athletes, women who are trying to get into law school, medical school, graduate programs, starting into their first career ever. Now that the internet exists, if your name pops up on an article like this currently, we have been told directly that they will not be admitted, that, you will be scrutinized by employers. And so that is a risk that we do recognize. However, once you cross the threshold and when take a stand for truth in such a kind of in combating injustice, it is so rewarding and fulfilling, and you will find that the amount of people that support you, it far, far outweighs the opposition. So I encourage you to be courageous, especially if I'm talking to the NCAA athletic directors who told me that they were fearful themselves. When you're in a position of power, take a stand because it's the right thing to do.
I couldn't have said it any better. And I applaud your courage and your willingness to encourage others to join you in that with bravery, because ultimately you will be on the right side of history. I believe that. And this is so unfair to women who had been the marginalized ones. And now trans activists are saying trans women are the marginalized ones and we need to treat them like all other women. There just needs to be a different solution. And that's not transphobic, and that's not homophobic, and that's not bigoted. That's just fact. And I applaud you, Marshi. Again, it's iconswomen.com, women plural, WOMEN. I wish you the very, very best. I'm going to be following because this is important. I joined the network, and I would encourage anyone that has a daughter, a sister, any female in their life who is an athlete or just believes in it to join as well. And I certainly am surrounded by those. So Marshi, thank you so much for your time. I am so impressed at what you've done in such a short period of time. And I just have a feeling that your organization is going to snowball into something very powerful and honest and decent and good. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Michele, for having me. I'm a little starstruck.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Right back at you. I am a great admirer of what you're doing and what you've done in your past. So folks, this has been Sideline Sanity. Check them out. iconswomen.com. Be brave like Marshi, do good like Marshi, and go to the website. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Well, Sideline Sanity, we are very proud to be sponsored by Legacy Precious Metals, and we're joined by Charles Thorngren, the CEO of Legacy Precious Metals. Charles, we are hearing now that this is not transitional inflation. This is not a bump in the road. This inflation is going to be here a while. What does that tell you?
That's the scary thing. I think, economies and such like that, they can deal with small jars. We have a unique situation. We had a Fed that waited much too long to react to the situation, calling inflation transitory for a year when everyone knew it wasn't. But more importantly than that, coming out now saying, this is going to be here. This is long term. This is not short term. We're going to have elevated rates for the long term. And why that gets really scary is that means the cost of doing business is going to be elevated for years, which means the cost of goods are going to be elevated for years, which means if companies can't make enough money, they will go out of business. This is why we hear some of your bigger companies are already talking about layoffs. So it's a unique situation. The Fed found themselves in a very bad place, and they reacted way too slow. And this is why we're at where we're at.
So if I'm an investor, then why do I want gold and silver in my portfolio? What will that do for me?
That's a great question. And that's a question we get a lot. And really what gold and silver do, they act as the hedge against the dollar weakness. They act as a hedge against the other markets. And we know that the Dow and all of your markets, all your indices are pulling back, right? That's not the issue. It's not what's already happened. It's what's yet to come. And that's where we need to prepare. So depending on who you listen to and the research that you do, there are case studies that are saying expect to see another 20 to 25% pullback in your equities markets based on interest rates and loans, and the bond markets, they're suffering as well. No one's going out to buy bonds knowing that they're going to be an increased return on them in 3 months. It makes no sense. So that leaves you in a position of what to do with your money and how to protect yourself. This is where gold and silver come in. This is why we say this is a long-term play. You buy it, you forget about it, let it do its job. And its job is to go up over time as the dollar gets weaker, as the purchasing power gets less. Gold and silver increase. It protects that purchasing power. And that's the great thing about it.
And there's your bottom line and why you need to call Legacy Precious Metals or go download their investor's guide at legacypreciousmetals.com. Charles, it's always good to talk to you because these are nerve-wracking times for people. It's just the fact of the matter is, as we were told by the Fed chair, there's going to be some pain. So if people know that they've got something solid sitting in their investment portfolio, I think they're going to feel a little bit better, right?
Absolutely. And we, when we look at the actions that have happened just recently, the Fed has taken a very unique stance, and they've done something very extraordinary. 3/4 of a basis points raises months in a row. That's one of the largest raises you've ever seen in the Fed through the history of the Fed. And it's not just once. One time is shocking. Here we are on the third month now, and we'll probably do another half a basis point next month or later this month, possibly even 3/4 of a point. So when you look at that and you say that number is going to grow to where the Fed interest rates will be about 5%, unheard of. That means the interest rate to you and I, if that's what banks pay to borrow money, we're going to see, credit cards will probably be over 28, 30% again. You're going to see home loans coming in 9, 10, possibly even 11%. And it's a scary time. And this is why we say, okay, know that it's coming. Don't be afraid. You now are aware, so now you can protect yourself. And that's what we help people do.
Don't be afraid. Prepare. Just prepare yourself. And like I say every day, I trust Legacy Precious Metals when it comes to investing in gold and silver. So go to legacypminvestments.com, legacypminvestments.com. Charles and his group can answer any and all of your questions. Charles, thank you so much.
My pleasure as always.